All right, the first book is not fiction. It is the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu or Lao Tzu. It is from China, about 2,400 years old, and I read it in a different world altogether last week. Although, as we've seen in the big picture, 2,400 years ago, and the evolution of our species might as well have been last week. It's not presented as a narrative, it's more of a collection of proverbs, and I will be giving comment on some of the proverbs as they struck me while I was reading. Not exalting the gifted prevents quarreling. I can see the truth in this, but quarreling aside or taken into the bargain, how does exalting the gifted help or hurt us? Doesn't it make sense to exalt the gifted and hold it up as examples to us of what may become of our own gifts should we endeavor to do as they have done? And if these heroes are allowed fruits and privileges, may that not entice us to follow in their ways and bring us all up to greater heights? They'll not only pull us with their achievements, but push us by inspiring us. Or does it stifle us? If we let the cream rise to the top, does it rankle the milk below? And if cream sees too much sun, does it start to curdle too fast? I mean, that's a question that affects parents, teachers, managers, anybody who has to deal with people and has to mete out praise or not. And I believe the gifted can intimidate, sharpen, or both the ordinary, depending on that ordinary person's perspective and the thousand things they've experienced that have brought them to that moment and where their gifts lie. It's really, it's such a complicated problem with so many factors that you can't know the answer of what will be best for each individual person. You can try, and you should try, but you can't know. And you're a person who wants to do good. You don't want to hurt anyone, and why deny yourself the pleasure of being magnanimous to a being who pleases? If you have a child, student, employee, etc., who outpaces her peers in some regard, it is okay to reward that person. Well, with a child, I don't think the reward should be material. I think you should give them an extra privilege for a short time and some affection. But here's the thing. Don't do it in front of the others. Confer these things privately. This praise and this affection and this privilege. Do it behind closed doors. And if the others should happen to see these privileges being enacted or get some wind of this, well then tell them the truth if they ask you about it. But do it coldly. Do not heap affection or praise on this gifted person they've asked about. Just tell them the reason in terse, plain terms. Tell them the truth. If an extra responsibility is deemed worthy or necessary of the gifted person, if possible, a reward of some kind should be attached. The United States Postal Service in the 90s was famous for having employees come in and shoot up its offices. And when they thought about it, why the people were doing this, a large reason was thought to be that when you did well as an employee at the post office, you were just given more work and more responsibilities and harder things to do with no rewards, and it was maddening. But preferring this reward privately sets both the examples of honoring hard work and respecting the feelings of others. We cannot control how a person shows off their status or their privilege, but we can help develop them by behaving with humility and awareness from our own positions of privilege. Mask your brightness, be at one with the dust of the earth. I'll take the second part first. A lot of people like to remind us that we're all made of stardust or we're all made of dead stars. And these people are 100% correct. One of the biggest reasons to care about the universe and work to try to improve it is that the universe is you. You don't control the universe, but you don't even control your own body in the universe. It gets sick when something comes into contact with it, it betrays you, it decays. And so with the life cycle of everything. And I know that the universe is huge, and you and our entire species are tiny, but to continue on is the way of the universe. And because you are the universe, if you want to give yourself happy good times during this existence, you need to take care in your short stewardship of this universe as you would that of your offspring. Because this dust you are is going to just keep being reconstituted and reconstituted. And as to masking your brightness, once again, you are just dust. I'm reminded of a line in Paul Theroux's The Mosquito Coast where a character says, "Charlie, your father's the worst kind of pain in the neck, a know-it-all who is sometimes right." A show-off may be the envy of her neighbor, but she'll never be his champion. We should beware the self-righteousness that often accompanies righteous actions. If you think good things and you do good things, you're going to feel better. But you need to remember that the right-minded person, when they see you with this success and equanimity, they may envy you, but as long as you are humble in your display and enjoyment of these things, they will never begrudge you them. If you want to truly feel good and be good, employ this tactic because it makes you an example for us all. People will see your brightness at times, even when masked, and often when you are not aware they are seeing it at all. And if you're masking it well, it just makes it more intriguing and gives the onlooker less spite. And no one is perfect. You don't need people waiting around with bated breath for when this know-it-all is finally wrong. Take no action and things will happen. This is a wild misreading, but it got me thinking. It says take no action and things will happen, and this is certainly true, but Blaise Pascal famously said that all of mankind's troubles come from not being able to sit in a room and do nothing. And yet many people in the world meditate for therapy, which would be exactly what Pascal would find to be maddening or an impossibility. Do we endorse meditation? I don't know, I'm ignorant. We do endorse learning, so more on this later. The sage has self-respect, but not arrogance. Do not be arrogant. The more you learn, the more you realize how little you know. And you realize the true wisdom is that every being knows something you do not. Do not speak down to even children. You're no better than them and they don't like it. They're just too young to articulate why. And you need to extend that same respect to yourself. You are the moon and the sun and need not feel inferior to them. But you're also the flea and the tapeworm. And to imagine yourself more is both arrogance and vanity. And your value is not attached to the value that you think you are projecting. A wizened person is humble. This, once again, is not telling you to be a doormat and not to assert yourself when you think you must or your rights are being trampled upon. But once again, never talk down to anyone. Speak to them as an equal and a person of your intelligence. Do not presume anyone incapable of understanding you. If you perceive that a person you're talking to cannot ascertain your meaning, kindly ask if they're with you. And if they say no or kind of, then go back and break it down. But always give them the benefit of the doubt first. Use sensible judgment. A lot of jargon is likely not wise for communicating with a layman in a subject. But every person you meet is worthy of you starting that relationship as if the person was your intellectual and educational equal. Keeping it in mind will earn you respect and produce good times. Not letting others feel slighted or disincluded is very basic. But it's also easy to assume and presume in a way that's hurtful. This should be remembered even in the heat of passionate argument. If you respect your fellow man and listen to her, you'll find that often group conversations get along just fine without you talking at all. Listen more, talk less. Easy to say and so hard to do. I have struggled with this my entire life and struggle with it today, and I want to stamp it out of myself because it will make me happier. A brave and passionate man will kill or be killed. A brave and calm man will always preserve life. That's a lot to consider. I do not believe our passions are necessarily wrong, but they must be calmed, examined, and if worthy to be acted upon, focused. The cooler your head, the faster you can see things with a broader perspective. They say hindsight's 20/20. It's not. But we see that with a remove, we do see things in a fuller light. And what we want to do is bring that time as close to right now as possible. We highly value humor, not just for the laughter it creates, but because the humorous person is already seeing a present situation from an outside perspective and with less heat. And we register that as an intelligence and a means of survival. And sometimes we think a person being humorous is not seeing a situation with enough gravity, but now that we look at humans, how much gravity could any situation in which they could find themselves actually deserve? The more righteous dislike of the humorous person comes when the humorous person targets a thing or a being in a way we think that thing or being does not deserve. Or that even more odious thing, when the funny person is not funny. Those who know don't talk. Those who talk don't know. That sounds pretty good, but this guy's literally talking for like 100 pages in this book, so why would I read any of it if he believes it? This line in the book once again made me think of my own rashness, speaking when I should listen, not taking the time to put myself in another person's position, not taking the time to assess a situation, coming on too forcefully without all of the facts, as much as a person could have all of the facts. Reacting instead of observing and using better intelligence in the CIA Mission Impossible sense. Listening and observing are key. But sometimes the most knowledgeable person must speak up for the benefit of all. If you have answers when they are needed, use your best judgment. You are here to be active and to help, but many situations will be helped best without you speaking. Okay, and that was the Tao Te Ching. I'd like to thank the text, its creator, and all of those who have kept it alive for these centuries and millennia.